Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Small Success Podcast. I'm Pam Downing, the Operations and Marketing Strategist here at Larison Media, and I am not alone today. I'm here with...
Hey everybody, Drew here, founder and creative director of Larison Media.
Thanks for being here today, Drew.
You know what? Thanks for having me. I mean that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Means a lot.
Super excited that you're joining us today, especially if you're a small business owner, because we're talking about something that you may not have thought about before. Well, let me rephrase that. You've definitely thought about it before, but we're presenting it to you in a new way today. So what we're going to talk about is something that's kind of hidden in plain sight, one of your greatest marketing assets that you work with, you live with, you communicate with, you are doing life and work and business with every single day, but you may have never thought about the fact that this component of your business is one of your greatest marketing
I'm on the edge of my seat over here. You've hyped this up.
Yeah. Well, what I'm talking about today...
Is it my dog?
No.
No.
Although Kinley, our office dog, is a great asset to our
She
team.
brings the likes. That's for sure.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's your employees.
Oh.
So obviously, if you employ people as a business owner, you need them. They have a specific purpose, a specific function in your squad, your team. They have a job to do. They have a role to fulfill. But something I thought about the other day was that your employees are such core to your business and represent your brand, of course, at the office or at the practice or whatever kind of business you operate, at the restaurant, at the bar. They represent your business and who you are while they're in your place of work. Also online. That's a new thing that I'd like to talk about. That's developed in the last, 10 years or so.
Sure.
Every individual person has their own online brand, whether they're being intentional about that or not. How your employees operate on the job, how your employees interact with customers, clients, patients, and overall, how they represent you and your business. That's marketing. So, for example, say you own a contracting business and you specialize in home repairs. Someone that you hire to do work for you because you're getting busy, your business is growing, you're becoming overwhelmed, and you can't do it all yourself. So you hire on your first employee. Are you going to hire someone that is well-spoken, they can interact with clients, you can trust them to give estimates, you can trust them to do a job well done? Or would you hire someone who does great work, but maybe they're lacking in their professional skills? Maybe they're not very eloquent when they're speaking to clients. Maybe they make some mistakes in their estimates. Either way, not saying it's a good or bad choice, but from a marketing perspective, thinking about who your employees are as you hire them, how they represent you, your brand, your business while they're out and about, is something to consider. So Drew, any thoughts on that about employees and kind of brand ambassadors out and about as they're on the job?
Yeah, and I was trying to think, maybe this only matters towards your employees that talk to customers or ever come in contact with customers or, anything that ways. But really what you were just saying, especially the world we're in, this should be a thought in your mind as a small business owner, no matter who that employee is. I don't care if they're in your warehouse and they never even see another employee. They never see a customer. They don't even see maybe a janitor that comes in at night. They just don't see anyone. That still matters so much because the world we're in, it's likely that employee is going to tell the world by putting on their Facebook profile or LinkedIn, whatever it is, that they work for you, that they work for your brand, and they may not contact people on the job, but what they're posting, what they're portraying as their personal brand online will affect your corporate brand. So I was trying to maybe give you the benefit of the doubt. Like, well, it's only for people that maybe your sales staff or your front desk staff, whoever it is in your business. But really, this is important for everybody because the world we're in, it doesn't matter who they contact during the job, what they portray themselves as online after the job is just as important, or can be just as disastrous if it could. If there's, being very visible on the job.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the cool things about living in 2019, which is when we're recording this podcast, but also the slightly scary, I don't know if that's the right word choice, maybe intimidating thing, is because of these devices we have within arm's reach at any moment of the day, our phones, we have camera. We can take a picture, take a video. I mean, there is at any given moment on the job an opportunity for complete transparency and complete vulnerability as a business. Obviously, some of this kind of bleeds over into like confidentiality. If you own a medical practice, obviously your employees
better not be taking selfies with people passed out on a table or something like
right.
that.
So I'm talking about appropriate levels of transparency here.
I've seen that, by the way. That's like been some news stories I've seen, like nurses or ER staff. Let's say someone's like zonked out after surgery, or like even the worst. I think the worst one, like coma, like people are in a coma.
Oh, no.
And you see some of maybe they're not even like RNs or like the higher level of the hospital, but it's maybe the janitor or something like that comes in at night and like they're taking selfies with these people. And it was just detrimental. Detrimental to that brand of the hospital really or medical practice. Yeah.
Well, the transparency I'm referring to is an appropriate level of transparency. So, meaning, are you having adult temper tantrums on the daily basis? Are you a boss that people enjoy working for? That all is postable. Your employees online, or as they interact with customers or clients or on the phone. And I mean, we can talk as big as personal lives and how employees are brand ambassadors when they're off the clock, so to speak, but also in the way that they answer the phone, the way that they respond to an email, not asking for perfection here, but kind of how this conversation is directing is kind of pointing back to team culture and leadership. How do you, as a small business owner, lead your team? Do you create roles for your employees to serve in and fill for you and your business that make them want to come to work, that make them want to do a great job and serve your clients and work with your customers and answer the phone in a friendly way? Or is your leadership one that is cultivating an environment where people are kind of bored and people don't really love their job? How people interact with customers and clients, as well as how they represent themselves online and how they talk about their job, all falls under that umbrella of marketing for your small business's brand. And it matters. Now, you're not hiring robots. You're hiring
Maybe you are.
I mean, maybe
if
you are.
you're listening to this in 2050, all your employees are robots by then. Who knows? It'd be amazing.
If that's the case, please direct message us and let us know. I'm very
Where do you buy your robots?
Yeah.
Is it a Walmart? Does Walmart have robots in the future?
Oh my gosh. It's a good future podcast topic.
There you go. Robots.
But, obviously giving people autonomy and freedom to be who they are. I'm not talking about brainwashing. I'm talking about leading so that your small business has a culture of teamwork, honesty, all of the components that you want in a small business. That sets the stage for employees who genuinely enjoy their job. And so what they're posting, how they're responding, how they answer the phone, their energy levels are genuine, and that aligns with who you are as a brand, no matter what industry you're in. Maybe you own a pizza place. The way that your employees answer the phone, treat clients and customers, and interact with them, that matters.
Mm-hmm. And you keep saying leading, and I'm in my head, I keep finishing that sentence by example. I think your employees, pizza shop example, if they hear you answer the phone in a certain way, consistently the same way, or treat customers the exact same way over and over and over, or handle situations in the same way over and over and over in healthy ways, or maybe unfortunately in unhealthy ways, they will do that as well. I've seen it as a customer of businesses that I go to frequently. I've seen like that slow shift happen where they, the leader gets lazy, or like the owner stops caring about certain things. Your employees will also stop caring about those things as well, because they see, if the owner doesn't even care, why should I care?
Right.
Or if the owner doesn't even, keep it to this standard, why should I keep it to this standard? That happens so frequently. And that's why leadership is hard.
Yeah.
That's why not everyone's a leader. I mean, if it was easy, everyone would be doing it, and doing it well. But I mean, you have to, as a leader, stick to, remind yourself constantly why you started or why you made these decisions, to build your business in this way, or treat customers in this way, or do your processes and systems in this way, and constantly remind yourself of that. Because if you don't, you're going to, lose, track of why you did it or how you're doing it, and your employees will follow suit in that. So I mean, it's hard, but like leading by example every single day in every single situation is key. Very, very key. It sounds like an obvious statement, but it's when you talk about things on the topic of consistency, of course it's obvious to be consistent, but it's still hard, so to remind yourself of those obvious things is really important as a leader.
Yeah.
There's truth in the cliches. It's one of my favorite expressions of all time, because I think there's so many things in leadership and relationships in general that have just become cliche, like treat others how you'd like to be treated. Everyone knows that. Majority of people don't do it, because we're selfish beings, and we get lazy, or we, care about ourselves more than other people. But there's so much truth in that simple cliche that if you remind yourself of those truths in those cliches, things can tend to go better.
Right. Yeah, we recorded a podcast about core values. I'd encourage you to go back and take a listen to that, because we really kind of do a deep dive on the why that's important. But keeping those things at the forefront. And then a term that's been new to me in the last probably 6 months or so is the idea of self-leadership. Drew, you talked about this in more words or less by talking about consistency, and really to be a great leader as a small business owner, to create that culture, that team environment that you are wanting, to make your employees better, not because they're your employees, but because you genuinely care about them as people,
and you want them to be better as people.
Yeah. You've said this before, Drew. I mean, about hiring. In the hiring process, one of the questions you ask yourself is, do I genuinely like this person?
Yeah.
Which is an interesting question, but it's actually a really important question, because you will come across wonderful people who are incredibly skilled and talented at the job that you are specifically hiring for. But if there are things that are just off about them, or you as a business owner are thinking, gosh, well, they're really skilled at their craft, but do I really want them representing my brand as a business? That's really important to think about, especially when it comes to like that human resources discussion, because do you want someone that does a great job? Yes.
Duh.
Do they have to fit well in your team?
That's more important.
Absolutely. And then even taking one step back further, do they fit under that umbrella of marketing and branding? I don't think that necessarily needs to be the first question you think about, but in our conversation about marketing,
it's up there though.
It's up there.
Yeah. I think, like you said, the first question I always ask in my head about someone when I'm interviewing them is, do I think they're a genuinely good human being that cares about other people? That's number one, and I think will always be. And I get that vibe, I think, in the interview. Do I think because we're in a client service industry, which sure, knock the word client. We are a service industry. Mm-hmm. That's what we do, is we serve other people. We're not creating widgets, or products. We're serving other businesses, other people. And to do this well, you have to be able to put other people's needs and wants before your own. You have to show them that love of service in that. And I don't think someone can do that if they're not a genuinely good human being that wants better for others, maybe more than themselves, which is hard to find. And no one's perfect in that way. We all have our moments. But that's always the number one question I ask in my head. Do I think this person could be in a spot where they genuinely care about a client or, a customer or whatever business you're in more than they care about their own needs in that moment? Always the number one question I ask. And usually in the interview, I can snoop that out if I think they're that type of person or not.
Mm-hmm. Well, and a great example of this is think about when you're a consumer, when you're the customer. What is your experience like with certain brands? There are restaurants that I will go to because of their service.
Ready? I think we're thinking of the same person, and this will be a fun game. On the count of three, name the restaurant you're thinking of that has like the best customer service. You go there and you know exactly what you're going to get. 1, 2, 3. Chick-fil-A.
McAllister's.
Oh! See, I was thinking Chick-fil-A.
Oh, Chick-fil-A is a great example.
Chick-fil-A has been in my head the whole time we've been talking because their employees, I don't care if it's the person cleaning the bathroom, sweeping out the parking lot,
Oh, yeah.
the person taking my order. I've never come in contact with someone cooking, but I'm guessing it'd be the same type of thing. They represent what Chick-fil-A wants to represent so freaking well. Every time,
any location, any state, any time zone.
There's some article I saw pop up the other day. It was Chick-fil-A is changing the customer service game by simply training their people to say thank you or
Yes.
please and thank you.
My pleasure.
Yeah, specifically that's what they say. But like it's such simple
Yeah, that's a great example.
because common courtesy of customer service is lacking so much. All you have to do is teach your people to do the most common please, thank you, you're welcome, my pleasure.
Yep.
And you will be looked at as gods of customer service.
Right.
No
Well,
pun intended, because they're a really religious organization.
yeah, that's a great example. That's so funny. That wasn't the example I was thinking of.
I worked at McAllister's.
Well, I don't know if I should say the thing I'm about to say. So I won't. I'll just say I will go to McAllister's because of their service. If I'm with kids, 100% I will choose McAllister's because every location I've ever been in, their employees, their brand, their marketing as a company, that standard of courteous, quick, polite, kind service to me as a mom is invaluable.
Yeah.
Even if their
Which is
food
so
isn't
smart
my
on their
favorite.
end.
Yeah.
Like I hope, I don't remember, because I said I worked there when I was a kid. I don't remember the training. But in my head, that's so smart for every single restaurant to focus on in training. Treat families like they're royalty. Because you think the business side, how amazing if you get a mom to be like a massive fan of your business, that she'll take her family there over anywhere else because of that. That's so smart business wise to like really treat families and kids like royalty. Never complain about the mess they might make of saltine crackers everywhere or whatever. Like, no problem, we got it. We love having you here. It's brilliant. It's brilliant.
It really is brilliant because to me, that is what I think about when I think about that brand, not their food.
Yeah.
And they're a restaurant.
Yeah.
They're not in
They're in the customer
childcare
service industry,
business.
not the restaurant industry.
They are. But Chick-fil-A is a great example because, you have a lot of choices
Sure.
for where you can go get a chicken sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
But 10 out of 10 times, if we are within a 20-mile radius of Chick-fil-A, that's where I'm taking my family.
Yeah.
Because their employees, their brand, their marketing always aligns. It's consistent. It's quality. That I would actually be really interested in their like employee onboarding process and their training process from this perspective of marketing, branding.
And how cool too, you think the idea of that training process is just overwhelming in my head, the training they probably have, and they are massive. So you talk about like customer service training at scale. They're really the people you should probably look at compared to just a mom and pop shop that has one location that has unbelievable customer service as well. But like they're doing it at scale and they're getting people, thousands and thousands of people across this country to believe what they believe about customer service and not just believe it, but act on it. And that's huge. thousands and thousands of people. It's different than your 4-person staff at a local cafe
Right.
to sell into something. I mean, so my experiment didn't work. You said something different than I did, but we both agree. Chick-fil-A, I mean, if you want a case study on how to get your employees to buy in what you believe about customer service, they're an unbelievable person or a company to go at and look at.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I pull out the Chick-fil-A app when we're on a road trip and I figure out where we're going to take our next
And
break.
you probably put a smile on when you push the button. You're like, 'cause you know what? Good times are ahead.
That's right. Okay, so now I want to shift the conversation a little bit. We've been talking a lot about the perspective of the small business owner and how you create that team environment, how you view people, how you lead well. But I want to shift it a little bit and think about the employee perspective. As an employee, what makes you love where you work so much so that you embrace that role as a brand ambassador? I don't know why I'm really latching onto that term. As a representative of your place of employment in and out of the office. I feel like this is a new thing for employees in the last decade or so.
Because of social media.
Because of social media.
Because overnight, everyone has a personal brand and they didn't even realize it. Some still don't realize what that is and the impact it has.
Yeah. And that's something really important to think through, especially if you're listening to this and you are, you just graduated from high school, or maybe you just graduated from college. As an employer who hires, one of the first things we do is head to social media.
Oh, yeah.
And see how that individual is representing
especially
themselves.
In our world. I mean, it's extremely
especially
important.
in our world. Yeah. But as an employee, you know, what are some things to share with a small business owner that you value that would make you really want to buy in to that role of, yes, I love working here. I love doing the job I'm doing. I'm proud of this. I want to be a part of this. Some of this I feel like just naturally happens if that culture of a team environment and you legitimately enjoy your job. It's just natural to share a snap during the day or to share an Instagram story that's showing you and your coworkers
This is so interesting for
eating
me.
donuts.
Like I'm having the realization for the first time in a long time. I haven't been an employee in 4 years. This conversation is super interesting and healthy for me.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to have like the attitude or headspace of an employee. I'm like, I kind of forget already what it is.
Sure. Well,
which is good for the other business owners listening right now to think about that every now and then.
Yeah.
Because your head's so busy being the owner. Like sometimes it's hard to take a second and wait a minute, think like an employee. Mm-hmm. If I were in their shoes, what would I want or desire to be, to enjoy my job more, which is interesting too, because maybe this is where you're going from and I cut you off. Sorry. But like, it's different for every employee, especially generationally. There's a lot of studies. Millennials want things from a work environment that baby boomers would never even care about or like desire. So that's interesting too. That each employee probably desires or wants something different or has those different benchmarks to say, like, if I get this, I'm enjoying my time here. Yeah. Or if I see this or experience this, I'm getting something from this job. Which is why transparency and conversation with your employees is really important. I think every CEO of a small business, every owner of a small business, like one of the most important roles they play is that, because I know like they wear a lot of hats. I mean, maybe you are the janitor, you are, the head chef, you are, I mean, everything, whatever industry you're in, if you're a small business owner, you wear 20 different hats. But one of the most important ones, in my opinion, is that HR director hat as well, is knowing your people, knowing what makes them tick. Leadership, and this has been said 1,000 times, but like leadership to me isn't just giving people tasks or delegating. It's getting people and finding out what makes them tick and putting them in those roles to watch them achieve, not making sure you achieve. And you can't do that without having that HR hat. Yeah. And really looking at people as people, not just people as doers in your business, which is important.
Yeah, this was an interesting offshoot of this conversation would be how your Enneagram number affects the way you lead as a small business owner specifically. And that's something unique about being a small business owner and having employees, because as you know, there are giant corporations who offer things to employees that are very different from the things that a small business offers to employees. So thinking through, of course, how you treat your employees, how they do their job, but putting yourself in their shoes and thinking about what would I love as an employee? What do I value as an employee? And you're right. And I think this goes from, the logistical, like, well, what equipment do I have? I remember when I hired you, you asked me, do you want a laptop or a desktop? I was like, this was really cool. This was the first time an employer ever asked me my preference of the equipment that I would be using every day, all the way down to what snacks are there in the break room? What is the dress code in the office? And how does what we wear represent who we are as a brand? Thinking through, if we all go to lunch and there's one employee who's here alone, well, other than the safety component of that, and someone walks into the office early for an appointment, do you feel confident in that whoever is there, no matter who they are, is representing us as an organization, as an entity? Is that lone employee representing us well? And there's so many things that go into that. Obviously, work, quality of work, talent, giftedness, all those leadership components, but also the little things.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know, as an owner, as like a leader in this organization, I don't know, to a fault, I think sometimes I put every bit of like responsibility on myself. Like, I don't know, I'm the type of leader where if anything fails from minor to catastrophic, like it's my fault. Like it's, no matter if I had anything to do with it actually happening in the moment, like in my head, I screwed up somehow, the fault's on me, let's fix it and move forward. But as I'm listening and was sitting here, having these conversations there's a lot on the employee as well. Sure. And I think the employee sometimes puts a lot on the owner to handle this type of stuff. But like as a business owner now and working with small business owners day to day, that like, I don't think the employee ever knows what all that owner is actually doing and like the stress and decisions that are on that owner. So they think, well, if that needs to change, the owner will do it, or something like that. But I think there's a responsibility. If you're an employee and you really care about the culture of a business, or you really care about your happiness at that company, there's something on you too to approach that business owner. It's like, hey, this is happening and I'm not really happy with it. Like, don't wait for the owner to recognize it and then just make them fix it. If that owner's in a healthy spot and can take that feedback, it will be so good for that overall health of that employee for that organization. And the owner might just have been blind to it and didn't know this was happening. So I think there's something on the employee as well. If you're unhappy with something, or you don't like how something is going, or you see this is how this is moving forward, talk to the owner about it. And if you do it in a respectful way, not be like, fix this type of attitude,
Right.
So many good things will come from that.
Yeah, it really is. It is a relationship.
Yeah.
It like a friendship, like a client sale relationship. I mean, it's another example of a relationship. And when I use the word relationship, I mean, there are two parties working together to make things better. Yeah. And great point. And another thing about having that open communication and that transparency for the owner, but also for the employee, is the feeling of, I'm a part of this. I have a voice. Yeah.
And that, thinking like if an employee came to me, hey, I don't like how our company is handling these type of situations, I think we're better than that. Like, I would be floored and like honored. I would feel honored, respected in that moment so much, even if it's a moment like I'm feeling that I'm being critiqued or something like that. If an employee came to an owner and said that in that way, how respectful is that? Like, hey, I think we're better than this.
Yeah.
And I think this is how we could handle that. That's an unbelievable moment for that business. And if that moment happens, that defines the relational health between employee and owner and boss to me. And it's so healthy. So healthy if that moment happens.
So healthy because it removes the us, them, and makes it we.
Yeah, absolutely.
Having the approach to that conversation of, I think we could do this, fill in the blank, versus, I see this, I think you should do this. Having those we conversations is so healthy.
And this has to happen all the time. Like the owner or manager or whatever, the leader in the situation, someone comes to them with a nice, like, hey, stay in your lane. Like, the ideas are my job.
Yeah.
If that's happening, check it.
Yeah.
Check yourself, because you have an employee that cares so much about the success of your organization. They cross that line, which is probably an intimidating line for them. Like, go to my boss and say, here's an idea. Why aren't we doing this? Or here's something we could do doing better. Check yourself in that moment and let your pride fly away for a second and realize what's actually happening.
Yeah.
It's a great thing.
Yeah. The other great thing about that and having those open lines of communication, thinking about the employee as a marketing tool. I need to find better words to use than tool, because that's not what I mean. An asset to your team.
Yeah, there it
is priorities, and thinking about what's important to one employee may be very different from what's important to you as a small business owner. And that varies employee to employee. Maybe there's an employee who comes to you with that idea about change and something that's really foundational and core to your business and how you interact with clients, for example. You may have another employee whose biggest passion is making the snacks in the break room healthier. I mean, it could be as big as like a foundational element. Yeah. It could be as small as snacks in the break room. Both are important to those individuals in different ways. And
like how you respond in that moment as an owner could make or break that relationship with that employee.
Yeah.
If you respond in a way that's like, okay, sure, I'll think about it, and don't act on it, you could lose that person.
Yeah.
You could lose that marketing asset, that employee, in a week, depending on that person, because they don't feel like they're being heard. They're just a cog in the system. You know, all those like cliches you could say. How you respond in that moment as an owner is so crucial.
Yeah. And really, that has such a great trickle down effect to how your employees interact with their clients. So let's go with this example of the snacks in the break room. Say there's an employee who's really on this journey in their personal lives and they're discovering they really want to make some changes in their nutrition. Great. That's very important to them. They come to you, they propose this idea of changes in the break room. You listen, you respond, you make this minor change. The fact that they have felt heard and valued.
It's huge.
It's so huge. The fact that you took action, they feel like you listen to them, you understand them, you have prioritized something that's important to them, even if it may not be important to me and you. I mean, hi, we love our cheese balls here at Larson Media. So good. They're on a call.
Thank God they're almost gone.
Yeah, thank God. Because you know what, Drew? I do want to talk to you about healthier snacks in the break room.
Not now, Pam.
Okay, so let's go with this example. They have that conversation with you. You've made those changes. 3 days later, they're on a client phone call, knowing that they have your support, your trust, your value in them. The way that they interact with that client on the phone call this week may be slightly different, but it will be better because they will have that swag.
Totally trickle down, like what you were saying.
Total trickle down effect. So something to keep in the forefront of your minds, small business owners, as you build your team, as you curate your craft and work with your people, and as you lead yourself, but also as you lead your team, be thinking about all these ripple effects. It's you, it's your team, it's your clients. It also trickles all the way out to word of mouth. You know, here, Drew and I today talked about two restaurant chains because of their remarkable customer service.
Food was never mentioned. And like all the like 5 to 7 minutes we talked about those, we didn't talk about their food once.
Yeah. Also,
now if you want to do a podcast on Chick-fil-A sandwiches, I'm down.
That's right.
Not today.
Something should be noted too. We cannot go get lunch at Chick-fil-A today. We are a good 45 minutes from the nearest Chick-fil-A. That's how remarkable their service is. That's how much it's made an impact on us.
And yes, feel pity for us listening wherever you are.
If you're an entrepreneur that is interested in opening a Chick-fil-A franchise near us,
leave a comment below.
Leave a comment. So thanks so much for joining us today. I hope this podcast really kind of stirred some thoughts in you about how you lead your employees in particular, and how your employees are your greatest marketing asset.
Yeah.
We are biased and think there are other great ways that you can market your business, but really on the day-to-day interacting with people, it's your employees.
Yeah. And I think we probably went off a little hardcore HR today, but at the same time, like you talk about how the greatest way, we established in the beginning, your employees can be some of the greatest marketing assets for your business because they're the ones interacting with your customers on a daily basis. They're the ones that are, putting their personal brand out there that can affect whatever your corporate brand is. Absolutely. We established that. How to make it the best possible asset is to treat them well through great HR practices. And I feel like that's where we went with that.
Yep.
If you want them to actually care about your business, if you want them to show their personal brand in a way that highlights your business or makes people think better of your business because that person works at your business, you've got to treat them well. You've got to show them respect. You've got to listen to them in a way that they actually want to be invested in more than they already are in the success of your business, because they bought in. They love you, the idea of your business and who you are. But to get there, it's a process. And as a small business owner, you've got to wear the HR hat and take it really seriously.
Yeah. And I mean, from where I sit and my perspective, that's the fun part of the journey of entrepreneurship and owning a small business and continually growing and taking it to the next level. So glad you tuned in today. Thanks for joining us here on the Small Success Podcast. We will see you next time.